Hello guys, today we are reading. Have you ever met a girl who looked like your dream girl? If so, how did you react and what did you do? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. She was in a bus passing by and I've never seen her again, so I just moved on. LOL. Stare. Realize I'm staring. Realize I have no excuse or reason to talk to this person, and then walk away. I was 18 and was riding the bus when I saw this extremely beautiful girl. She stared at me all the time, again and again, every time she was on the bus with me. I took all the courage I had and talked to her. She seemed very nervous and told me that she was 14 years old. I stopped talking to her. In college I met a girl that looked like that dream girl I had in my younger teenage fantasies. It was one of the few times I was brave enough to say something. I know I would be kicking myself for the rest of my life if I didn't take the shot. She wasn't interested in me the way that I had hoped, but she became a close and dear friend for a good decade before life happened and we drifted apart. I saw this girl at a concert. Really pretty and sexy. Made about half-second of eye contact. 10 minutes later I was outside talking with friends. She ran into us begging for a few cents to buy a drink, so I gave her €2. She kissed me on the cheek and I pretty much fell in love instantly. We talked for a few minutes, then I had to go. Few days later I found her Instagram. Turns out she is a lesbian. Frick my life. Yup. Saw her at a nightclub and could not get her out of my head. She had the most beautiful face I've ever seen. Literally the hottest girl I've ever seen. A few months later I found her on Instagram by accident and started following her. She replied to a story I posted and we started talking. We talked for a few days and then she asked if I wanted to meet up. We met up at her place. But we never really clicked. We just had completely different outlooks on life and were just too different. A shame, but it is what it is. Yep, she was on temporary assignment at my work location. Gorgeous women with a smile that just made me melt. I at the time was a fat slob and decided I was gonna get my shit together and ask her out. Spent all year working out. Started being a more positive person. Worked on my people skills and honestly improved myself a lot. We had a great rapport with each other and a lot of my co-workers kept saying we would make a good couple. I waited till I knew she would be leaving to go back to her location as to avoid any awkwardness of me asking a co-worker out. Learned very quickly before I was going to ask her out that she did indeed have a boyfriend. That was okay with me. I'm glad I learned and ended up not asking her out. Still pretty good friends to this day. I never told her, but I owe her a lot. She helped me realize how much of a better person I could be and actually motivated me to work towards that. Still lots of improvement on my end, but I am grateful I got the opportunity to know her. She had a boyfriend. She's always talking about how much she loves him. I kept my mouth shut and never told her how I felt. We're still friends and I'm hoping that I meet someone else who can make me forget about her. Okay, so a few years back I was in a relationship. I met this girl at work who seemed absolutely perfect. She was very sweet, kind and kind of quiet, but also strong and confident. She was pretty too, and married. She left the place we worked to set up her own business, but we stayed in touch as friends for a while. Her marriage broke down, and a year or two later so did my relationship. So, one day while we were chatting on Facebook I was asking her for advice on setting up my own company as she had done, and suggested that we meet up for the first time in about 2 years for coffee and a chat. She coquettishly asked if I was asking her out on a date, and I, like a middle school boy idiot, said EW. No way. As if. I just want to meet as friends, because I liked her so much I didn't want to frick it up so early on. We haven't spoken since. We dated for a few months. She was selfish and didn't want to put in any effort or make room for me in her life. In the end I was like the 5th priority for her in her life. Everyone else in her life was a bigger priority and all I was just a confidence boost when it fit her schedule. I wouldn't say I reacted like anything. I was in a shop just getting some water and she turns around and was ahead of me about to pay. I was about to say something to her until she walks out and by the time I finished paying she was gone. Asked her out. Had an epic weekend. Then tried long distance and it quickly fizzled from that and us wanting completely different lives. I want a house and kids. She wants to live in a van and travel everywhere. I was walking in the mall with my stepdad. An absolutely gorgeous girl walked past me and we shared a smile while my stepdad was talking to my mom on the phone. Never saw her ever again, but I hope her life is going well. Yes, I met her in a lecture and we started talking. Flirting, dated for about 3 months, and in that time I realized I needed to be with someone who would complement and mesh with my personality. I was in this so hot this is perfect phase when I really needed to evaluate her based on personality. Obviously sexual attraction is healthy in a relationship, but it's not the only thing. Tip. It was at a concert. When she walked in the club, everything went black and white except her. Like in the movies. I couldn't help but stare at her for the rest of the evening. After the show she walked up to me and asked me why I was staring at her so much. I said because I like your style. She walked away. I went chat with her at the bar later. Fast forward a few months and we're dating. After 2.5 years of a long-distance relationship that involved physical and emotional abuse amongst other things, I finally called it quits. I married her. It wasn't a love at first sight type deal, but it was for sure a lust at first sight. When I met her it was a brief 10-minute conversation in a group, because she knew one of my roommates in residence in university. After the conversation I knew I wanted to at least talk to her again and tried to make any excuse to invite their group of friends to hang out with our group of friends so I could get a chance to talk. Turned out she wasn't just good looking, she was actually a dope chick, and I was lucky enough to trick her into liking me, and now 8 years later we are married and happy as ever. I did. First date, she pulls up in her car, I meet her in the car park. 10x prettier than her photos. Tall, slim, stunning face act. She walked over to me and gave me peck on the lips. I literally couldn't believe it. Been on loads of dates before, never felt like this. Had a drink, took her back to mine and watched a film. Stayed up talking until the early hours. Basically I played it really cool, collected and calm. Let her do most of the talking, enjoyed the moment. 7 years later we have 3 children and are happily married. Love her to bits. In this thread, I immediately put a ring on it with no problem. We've been married for about 20 years now and she's the mother of my 3 kids. I did, and she stole and broke my heart. She's still rad in my eyes. Frig, I adored her. Yep, I asked her out. She said no. I asked again and she said yes. Married 21 years this year. Yes, I was out on an all-day shopping trip with my older brother and went to a couple different malls. A ton of different stores, and both of us had a pretty good haul actually. We'd stopped for lunch and then were headed to the cigar shop. My city has this huge outdoor mall. Anyway, out on the sidewalk some girl called out to him, and we made our way to them. There she was. She was probably about 5'4" or so. She had a super fair porcelain complexion, raven black hair she had pulled back in a messy ponytail, curtained bangs, but it looked to be natural. Her hair color, and the biggest roundest eyes I've ever seen. They were somewhere between blue and green. She was in shape, but she also had a big ol' ass and wide hips. We chatted. Just one of those hey what's up? What are you guys doing kind of conversations. Small talk and banter about stuff at the mall for a few more minutes. Brother explained to me after that the other girl, not the one I liked, but the one that called out to him, was a FWB of his. Dude, you gotta set me up with her friend. Ended up going out on a date. She was pleasant and the date went well. Ended up texting for a while, but things didn't work out. I guess the last dude she was with really fricked her over, so she basically didn't want anything with any man for a while. What a bummer. Yes, I did. My younger brother had a crush on a girl he had met his first semester in college. Before he introduced me to her, he made me promise to stay back as he'd seen her first and he wanted first crack at her. He knew my tastes. I promised, and regretted it the moment I saw her. I actually cussed at him for making me promise after we left her dorm room. He just laughed and said, I know. I waited. My brother and I got an apartment together off campus. 2 months later, my brother and my dream girl went out on a couple of dates. She'd come over with her roommate and we'd all hang out. My dream girlfriend zoned my brother, but she and her roommate continued to swing by and hang out. I waited. We all dated other people while hanging out. A semester and the summer rolled by. The following semester, roughly 8-9 months after I'd met her, my dream girl's roommate got her own apartment and invited everyone over for drinks to celebrate. While there, my dream girl told me to get drunk. She was going to take advantage of me that night. I stopped waiting. Fast forward a bit. We've been married 20 years. She's the mother of my 3 kids. Yes, literally had my breath taken out of me when I saw her. I totally kept my cool, spilled water all over the bar. Then 15 minutes later spilled whiskey all over the bar. cursed her into drinking a pickleback which she freaking hated, literally only person I know who doesn't like picklebacks. Got drunk while she was drinking coffee. We're getting married in a year. I was bartending and the guy I was bartending with told me to forget about it. She only dated rich guys. I believed him, and even though she ordered a drink from me, I didn't hit her up or try and get to know her. Later I found out the other bartender had the hots for her too. Fast forward 2 years and a mutual friend introduced me to her. By then I wasn't a bartender anymore and I wasn't going to let this op pass me by. I started by just taking it slow, getting to know her, and eventually we started dating exclusively. By the end of a year, she'd moved in with me, and a year after that we got married. That was 20 plus years and 3 sons ago, and it's still in the happily ever after zone. No idea how it would have played out had I approached her the first time I met her. I walked onto the school bus my first day at a new high school and thought, holy hell, that's the kind of girl I'd like to spend the rest of my life with. Then her boyfriend sat down next to her, hung out with them for the next 3 years of high school. It only really got awkward when they grilled me on who I liked. There's gotta be someone. Haha. I spent a couple of years trying to forget her. Then one day in January was hanging out with old friends and they mentioned she was single. I sent her an anonymous sonnet on Valentine's Day, because I'm a complete dolt. She knew exactly who sent it, because she knew I'm a complete dolt. Turns out she was moving back home to finish her degree. We started dating. Last month I proposed to her. She said yes. Twice. The first time I was in college, where I met the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my life. I had a buddy who was very good at picking up women. He was naturally charismatic and witty. We were all partying in a friend's dorm room and she walks in. My heart stopped. Throughout the night I watched my friend try endlessly to seduce her and then watched her eyes roll to the back of her head again and again. I found this hilarious. We, on the other hand, hit it off right away and she invites me back to her place to hang out. That night we spent the whole night talking and watching The Fresh Prince until the sun came up. I loved every second of it. She couldn't figure out why I hadn't made a move and I could tell when I had to go. She was a bit disappointed. I just liked her and didn't want our interaction to just be a hookup. I asked her to hang out again the next night and I did not let the same thing happen. We spent the next 3 years in bed. Eventually, though, she moved on. Perhaps I was a bit immature at the time and wasn't quite ready for a post-college long-term relationship. I don't blame her, but I was wrecked and it took me years to stop comparing other potential partners to her. 3 years later, I met my second dream girl. I had spotted her a few times around my law school and I recall having that wow moment every time. She was stunning. Then, she was sitting in the library when a mutual friend introduced us. I couldn't believe my luck. He did the thing where he mentioned something about each of us so we had something to talk to each other about. Expert move. We chatted a bit and I could tell she enjoyed talking to me. I asked her out to go rock climbing and have dinner after. She agreed and the whole time I marveled at this wonderful woman as I found what she had to say and who she was as attractive as her appearance. She really was my dream girl. Alas though, I thought it was a date and she did not. There was someone else that she was seeing at the time, but she wanted to be friends. I agreed to be friends, but backed off the romantic advances. Still though, I couldn't help needing to go to the cafe at the same time I knew she would be there. Going out of my way to run into her. It went on like this for another year. We really were friends and she was the first woman who made me forget all about the first dream girl when I was with her. It was like she was beyond compare. Eventually, I recognized that there was some toxicity to my one-sided romantic feelings. It wasn't fair to me and it wasn't fair to her, so I began to distance myself. It was heartbreaking for me. Finally, the guy she was seeing broke it off with her, because he was scared of the commitment she wanted. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.